So everyone's been saying that you should group up and work as a team. Well, I say split up and then work as a team. So first, let's go over why I feel like grouping up is not a very good idea, especially against a very aggressive possessing demon. So the only pro I can think of about grouping up is just that you don't die instantly against a possessed unit. You can save each other. That is it. And then there's just a long list of negatives. First thing is, if you are grouped up, you cover less ground, which means you are getting less resources. Also, every time someone gets in a fight, everyone has to join in, which means you're using up resources. And generally, everything's just slow and you have to wait for each other. Sometimes people don't wait for each other, so you may as well split up anyway. Now let's look at splitting up. The real only downside to splitting up is if you are caught by yourself and out of position, you can die, and that's it. But if you're careful and stubborn and patient, it's pretty hard to die to a demon, especially if you use windows and cars. And even if one of you die, if 3 other survivors are going crazy on looting, you can all come back together and deal with anything and everything. And also, one survivor can technically hold the demon hostage. Trust me, the average demon who just relies on possession rushing early game will get very frustrated and won't know how to counter this. Now I'm going to show you 2 games where if a survivor is left to their own devices for too long, generally a hunter, then they can get very powerful and be almost unstoppable in a game. So in this game I managed to find 2 survivors, which is Hunter Ash and Support Ash. It seems like they were on map duty, so I follow them about a bit until they reach their destination, and Hunter Ash decides to open a trap chest and becomes terrified. I managed to get a few hits in before he takes me out of possession. I throw a flute out to distract the support while I possess the hunter and murder him. Then I throw Hunter headfirst into an elite's trident, and you're probably thinking, wow, just probably 2 survivors and that's the end of the game. Well, it wasn't, because Kelly and Ash were looting for the past 7 minutes, and they gave me a very hard time, and they were working very well together. Ash was focusing on clearing all the units around him so I can keep possessing, while Kelly would make short work of any unit I would possess. And of course, I tried to possess Kelly whenever I could and try and use her weapon against the team, but every time I did that, she'd drop her weapon. This went on for a while until luckily she went into a trap and near the tree, which allowed me to possess her and throw her into a trap and finish her off. It was a little hard to tell if I would have won or lost that game, because she was one-shotting all my units and giving me a pretty hard time, and she was pretty untouchable. But I'd say I was most likely going to win that game at the end, especially if we got to the dark ones, simply because of the amount of units I kept throwing at her, so she should have been running out of ammunition soon. And also, my threat level was extremely high, and as a demon, if your threat level is extremely high, the fear levels of all the survivors start ramping up really quickly. So it would have been very hard for Kelly to juggle her weapon while also keeping the units at bay. Now this might have been a different story if I only found 1 of the survivors, and 3 survivors were instead amped up and really good. For example, the support Ash could have been constantly healing their team and keeping Kelly's fear level low, so I might have not got that kill. Or the Hunter Ash could have been also very good. They would have both had a lot of ammunition and wiped out my units before I could possess anything. Now I'm going to show you a game of me playing survivor. I'm not the best survivor, so there will be some sloppy plays, but generally I was giving the demon a relatively hard time. So again, slightly similar things happening. I split off as a hunter and I just went crazy on looting, got as strong as I could. Also, my team was taking their time, getting stronger as well. I decided to go and start the objective because I am solo playing, and this is also kind of a nice way to encourage your teammates to come along as well. I didn't stick on the objective because it's still a team game. I'm not going to be able to do this by myself. But the reason why I started the objective is because I noticed my team was being harassed by a demon and I wanted to distract the demon a bit, get the attention on me so my team had time to recover a bit. Then the team started the objective. I made sure my fear was nice and low and I started looking for the flute. I went into 3 traps pretty unnecessarily, but since I had max fear resistance not only in terms of pink F but also my skill tree, I had fear no evil and I ain't afraid of no trap. That meant I had a total of 85% fear resistance when going into a trap, and I could afford to go into 3 elite traps and not get terrified. I even took a jump scare and still didn't get max fear level. And as you can see, I was just getting rid of as many units as I could so we didn't get overwhelmed. But really this is what the warrior should be doing, and generally the hunter should be mostly focusing the possessed units so I can keep as much ammo as possible. But you know, the team was kind of in shambles. I got hit unnecessarily, I did very bad dodging. I was also trying to stay near a light source, keep my fear level low so I didn't kill my team. You may have noticed that when I did go to a light source, my fear was going down relatively quickly because I did have light therapy, so I also got value out of that. Also, we got relatively lucky with the objective because there's a lot of light sources on this objective. And yeah, this went on for a bit, rinse and repeat, just constantly trying to survive, clear out units, take as little damage as I can. And yeah, I think the demon was pretty decent. He maxed out his traps, which is good against hunters. He was possessing quite a bit. He had pretty decent flute placement, but he could have probably changed up the flute placement for the second time. But then he decided to give up, which I don't think he should have. He definitely had a big chance of winning here, simply because this is the first objective we're doing and his threat level is pretty high. And as I said before, when a demon's threat level is pretty high, your fear ramps up, and even with the amount of fear resistance I had, my fear would ramp up quite quickly. Probably would have been able to reach level 30, but I guess he gave up because he felt frustrated. He couldn't hit me, and me and Kelly were bursting down a lot of his units. And sometimes as a demon, it can feel like you're just being beaten by 1 or 2 survivors, but sooner or later I would have run out of ammo. You could definitely done the book because I was shooting a lot of units because our warrior unfortunately kept getting downed. So if he kept downing that warrior and forcing me and Kelly to constantly shoot everything, yeah, that book would have been easy. I think these videos have shown that if you split off and amp up as much as you can to fight the demon, you have a pretty good chance of being a lot of demons. Even if it's not always a guaranteed win, at least you won't have a team wipe in the first 2 minutes if the demon finds you in another 2 minutes, and that's it. Personally, I feel like it is balanced, but it's also not balanced, because if survivors decide to group up and fight every possession, then they have no chance of winning that game. It is just a losing battle. But if survivors decide to get in cars or windows and avoid possession altogether, then the possession only really matters on the objective. I personally don't think it's very healthy or good for the game because it promotes a playstyle of running away at the start and not interacting with the demon, and that kind of already exists in another game, and I don't feel like Evil Dead needs that. But of course, as a survivor, you gain nothing from fighting the demon, so the best choice is to naturally avoid the demon. Now, you could also argue it's not great for newer players, but I feel like generally in asymmetrical games, usually the power roll is kind of easier and stronger against the group roll at a low level, and then as the level goes up, the group roll starts getting better and it's more group-sided. And that's my personal experience in the 3 asymmetrical games I have played. For example, in VHS, when I started playing the power roll, I'd win most of my games at the start, then I started losing some, but then I improved and started winning a lot again. But then I'd play against a group who were very good at the game, and most of the time I'd lose, but most of the games were pretty tense. Same on the other side, when I was playing the group role at the start, died all the time, never got anything done. But as I improved, I started winning a lot more games, nearly carrying games. If I was in a group who all knew what they were doing, it was a guaranteed win. And yeah, I feel like that's what happens often. Like every game, it has its flaws, no game's perfect. I'd say it's mostly a great game, I find it really fun. And yeah, that's it, thanks for watching.